Tonight, the battle over the First Amendment again takes center stage in alarming ways. Slashes to NPR and PBS funding, sending shockwaves through America's public newsrooms. This, coupled with the White House pressure on broadcast giants and legal battles shaking up iconic networks like CBS, Disney. We are witnessing a watershed moment for independent journalism. Even The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, often critical of the president, is being canceled come next year. The network says it is for financial reasons, but to critics, it raises questions about press independence and political influence. To help break it all down for us and what this means for an informed democracy is Michael Schneider, senior editor at Variety. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
So I want to start with this bombshell news of the LA Times first this morning. Chairman of the paper, Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, he was on The Daily Show last night with Jon Stewart, and he announced some pretty big news. Take a listen. I'll ask you about it on the other end.
The opportunity for us to provide a paper
that
is the voices of the people, truly the voices of the people. So I'm going to announce something with you tonight, is that...
More than the nude mouse, you're going to announce something?
That we're literally going to take LA Times public and allow it to be democratized and allow the public to be ownerships of this paper.
So Patrick Soon-Shiong says he's going to democratize ownership of the LA Times. And as you know, this comes after he's been under scrutiny for the management of the paper, decline in readership, refusal to endorse a candidate for president. What do you make of this and the timing of it?
Yeah, I think it's exactly coming after all the things that you mentioned. This is a troubled paper to begin with, but he's also made quite a few missteps, really alienated his staff, made some questionable staffing moves like you've mentioned. And, it's concerning like everything else. What does this mean now? What is the future for the paper? And who's ultimately in charge? Stunning and disconcerting news for our very important paper of record here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and it comes with so much disruption in media as it is. I want to ask you about the Trump administration slashing more than $1 billion from public media funding, PBS, NPR. What does this mean for public access to independent news and First Amendment ability to hold those in power accountable?
Yeah, it's devastating. I think people don't realize that it less impacts the actual NPR and PBS infrastructures in Washington or in New York City, but it really impacts local stations, particularly in rural areas where oftentimes the NPR station or the PBS station are the only sources of news or information. And in rural communities like in Alaska, like in Arkansas, and many red states are going to be really crippled by this now, particularly when it comes to sharing information about weather and other important means too. So it's really, really troubling on top of everything else going on.
And Michael, will these entities be able to make up the lost funding? And if not, to your point, how big a loss for journalism?
Well, the thing is, the outlets in the larger markets, like, say, here in Los Angeles, they'll find a way. Obviously, they're going to have to make some drastic cuts, but our local NPR stations will continue. Our local PBS stations will continue. It's in the smaller markets where they depend much more on money from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Those stations might go away because they need those funds to operate. So that's really concerning, and it's going to have an impact on a lot of programming, important programming, documentary programming, kids programming, a lot of things going forward.
Right. And I want to ask you, too, about efforts out of Washington to suppress the press. Bills like the Press Act that would have protected journalists' right to keep their sources confidential, which has been tradition for, decades. They've been repeatedly blocked in Congress by right-wing senators. How alarming to you is this?
Yeah, this has been the game plan for decades from right-wing politicians in trying to demonize the media, trying to prevent the media from doing their job, trying to prevent the media from speaking truth to power. And the really disconcerting thing is it's working, that they seem to be finding ways to really silence the media and silence their critics.
I want to ask you specifically about the Sherry Redstone decision to settle the lawsuit from Donald Trump against 60 Minutes. Critics say she was primarily motivated by her desire to secure FCC approval for the Skydance Paramount-CBS merger, it's a mouthful, and then get her $2 billion payout rather than protect the integrity of the news division in 60 Minutes, right? Does this raise concerns to you about newsrooms caving to political pressure?
Absolutely. And these companies that are all caving to political pressure and what that means for their newsrooms going forward. We've seen it at a number of different news establishments. ABC did the same thing. The CBS one is particularly egregious because this was a real unfounded lawsuit. I think legal experts far and wide said that this was a frivolous lawsuit. And indeed, CBS was only settling in order to kowtow to this administration and get the Skydance deal through.
Yeah, and it comes after so many assaults on the free press as well, and the networks, legacy newspapers. They're owned by billionaires. Patrick Soon-Shiong, we just showed here at the LA Times, seeking approval for his cancer vaccines. Jeff Bezos with the Washington Post has contracts with the government, as does Elon Musk with SpaceX, etc. All of them, in one way or another, need government approval or contracts for their various ventures. How does this threaten true editorial independence?
Well, and that was the concern. For a while, we thought maybe billionaires were going to save our local newspapers, that they were perhaps the folks who were going to come in when all the media organizations that previously owned the LA Times, the Washington Post, could no longer afford to keep those newspapers operating. It worked for a period of time, but ultimately these billionaires, they're not doing it just for altruistic reasons. They're doing it because they have business concerns, and that will come back, and it has now come back to haunt these publications. It's a real troubling turn of events.
Yeah, what critics say, they're answering to shareholder interest and not public interest, what used to be about the news. I want to ask you on a lighter note, or maybe not so light, about the new Superman movie. It's a massive box office hit, yet its viral success has also sparked this heated debate, with some critics labeling it as woke because of themes of inclusivity, diversity, embracing Superman as an immigrant, making it a real target for right-wing media. What does this tell you about where we're heading?
That's where we are now, right? Everything is turned political. Everything's a target, especially for right-wing media. The fact is, this is Superman. This is always what Superman has been. Superman was fighting Nazis back in the day. Superman's always been against fascism. Superman's always been about supporting the little person and helping out all Americans. So this is Superman. It's there's a certain portion of the audience that thinks that's woke. That's just what Superman's always been.
Yeah, and before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about the passing of the legend Ozzy Osbourne. Kind of sum up just his contribution to music.
Well, Ozzy Osbourne basically created heavy metal music as we know it, right? With Black Sabbath, he was an icon. And then, funny enough, he reinvented himself in the 2000s with the Osbournes reality show on MTV, and in some ways helped create that genre of celebrities going on reality TV, the Kardashians, the Real Housewives. That whole portion of reality TV has the success of the Osbournes to thank.
Yeah, a real true contribution, right, to culture, to pop culture and rock culture. All right. Michael Schneider, thank you so much for weighing in on all these really dynamic issues and some of the fun stuff here in Hollywood. Yeah, appreciate you. Take a deep breath. We survive it all. Thank you so much.